Mr. Speaker, as the latest round of the P5+1 Iranian nuclear talks resumed this week in Vienna, it is important for us to highlight just how weak and dangerous this deal is. From the moment that President Obama took office, he has sought a legacy of having achieved a nuclear agreement with Iran, regardless of the cost to our national security. In his first inaugural address, he promised to unclench his fist to dictators and followed that up in Cairo, telling the Iranian regime that he was willing to move forward, quote, without preconditions on the basis of mutual respect, end quote. Mutual respect, Mr. Speaker? This regime has targeted and killed Americans since the Iranian Revolution in 1979. This regime was responsible for killing and wounding thousands of our U.S. troops in Iraq. This murderous regime is destabilizing the region and mocking the U.S. by blowing up a mock U.S. aircraft carrier and chanting continually, "Death to America." Now the president is giving Iran not only access to billions of dollars, but also international legitimacy. Countries and businesses no longer fear doing business with Iran, even though the sanctions are still in place. They no longer fear looking like international pariahs, helping one of the world's worst human rights abusers and the world's largest supporter of global terror. Because President Obama has telegraphed to the world that he trusts the Iranian regime, giving it the legitimacy that it would have never gotten without this nuclear deal. So what do we see now? Well, Russia announced that it will resume sales of its surface-to-air missiles to Iran before the ink could even dry on the framework agreement. And Putin has said that Russia will trade assets like grain and construction equipment in exchange for Iranian oil. Iran has also announced that with China, well, China is going to help it build 5 additional nuclear power plants. According to reports, China and Russia have stated that they will not support snapback sanctions. Now, snapback sanctions are the cornerstone of the deal that the administration has praised as a victory. And U.S. oil executives have reportedly begun talks with Iranian officials in preparation for the opening of Iran's economy, in Iran no less. Now we hear reports that the Czechs stopped a potentially illegal nuclear technology purchase by the Iranians earlier this year. So I asked the administration, did the administration know, and did the P5+1 know about this violation? Did they choose to ignore it in order to forge this framework agreement anyway? And all of this in exchange for that allows Iran to continue to enrich uranium and to keep every key element of its nuclear infrastructure intact. The Iranians are winning concession after concession, giving up nothing but a few cosmetic and easily reversible changes. Since taking office, President Obama has capitulated to Iranian demands to cement his legacy of the president who normalized relations with Iran. We won't even be able to adequately verify this nuclear agreement, despite what the president promises, because he knows that access to Iranian sites rests with the Iranian regime. Access to military sites, where they would more than likely hide some of their nuclear infrastructure, isn't in the deal either. It is foolhardy and dangerous to believe that Iran will give immediate and unobstructed anytime access everywhere to all of its sites. We're not even forcing the regime to come clean on the possible military dimensions of its nuclear program, nor are we addressing its ballistic missile program, its support for terror, and its expansionist agenda throughout the Middle East. All we're doing is legitimizing one of the world's worst and most dangerous regimes at the expense of regional and U.S. national security. Iran will use this influx of money to continue spreading terror and fomenting instability and sectarian conflict across the globe. We've seen it in Yemen. We've seen it elsewhere. Mr. Speaker, the Middle East is on the brink of collapsing, yet the president continues on this dangerous quest for his Iran nuclear deal legacy. He has ignored the reality on the ground for political considerations and in doing so is putting our national security in jeopardy and that of our ally, the Democratic Jewish State of Israel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time.